Colin, let me know when we are ready to go.
Recording in progress.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the November 28, 2023 meeting of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority Board of Governors. First item on the agenda is Pledge of Allegiance. If I could ask everyone to please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Sylvette, can you call the roll, please?
Paul Anthony.
Here.
Ann Baum. Robert Brooks.
Here.
Frank Facciano.
Here.
Don Gottschall. Justin Grimshaw.
Here.
John Hayes.
Here.
Ron Heckman. Larry Hamburger.
Here.
James Irwin.
Here.
Jeff Matzkin.
Here.
Glenn Riebman.
Present.
Mike Sturshik.
Here.
John Strauss.
Here.
Chris Worley. He's on there. Yeah, so we do have a quorum.
Okay, thank you, Sylvette. Do we have any public comment?
No, sir, not at this time.
Thank you. Next, we've got one of the more pleasurable things that falls on this board. So, Tom, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve for a promotion ceremony. So, Steve, if you can get us started.
Thank you, Tom. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Connors. I'm the Director of Operations and Safety for the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority. Our first responders are a critical component for providing the highest level of safety for our passengers, pilots, stakeholders, and tenants across the LNAA airport system. The FAA, Federal Aviation Administration, mandates that aircraft rescue and firefighting operations, or ARF, required at all U.S. airports that serve passenger aircraft services. Airports are required to have an ARF service, which are inspected at least annually by the FAA and to ensure compliance with Federal Aviation Regulations, Part 139. Today, we have the privilege of recognizing the promotion to captain for one of our ARF members here at Lehigh Valley International Airport. Gregory Hill became a member of the ARF unit at ABE on September 23rd, 2021. With a long-time focus on public service, Greg began his firefighting career as a volunteer when he was only 14 years old. A graduate of Penn State University, Greg has previously worked as an ARF firefighter at Trenton Mercer Airport and is certified as an Airport Master Firefighter by AAAE. In addition to being a firefighter, Greg is also an EMT and has served as a lieutenant, a captain, EMS coordinator, and assistant chief during his career. We're also happy to be joined this afternoon by Greg's wife, Amanda, and father, Chuck. And at this time, I'll be turning over the ceremony to LNAA Executive Director Tom Stout and our Fire Chief John Demian for the oath of service. Tom.
Thank you, Steve. All right, so I would ask Gregory if you could step forward here. And I'm going to need you to face this direction. We can get your left hand on the Bible and raise your right hand. And you can go ahead and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Gregory Hill,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will serve the citizens of the Lehigh Valley,
that I will serve the citizens of the Lehigh Valley,
members of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority,
members of the Lehigh Northampton Airport Authority,
and the Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Division
and the Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Division,
with honor and integrity,
with honor and integrity,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
uphold the Airport Authority's mission,
uphold the Airport Authority's mission,
and adhere to the authority's core values,
and adhere to the authority's core values,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of captain
of the office of captain
within the Aircraft Rescue and Firefighting Division
within the Aircraft Rescue Firefighting Division
to the best of my judgment and abilities.
to the best of my judgment and abilities.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, Captain Hill. At this time, I would like his wife Amanda and father Chuck to come forward. We would like to get the pins placed on your lapel. All right. Congratulations again.
Of course.
I'm sure you're asking a
I
question.
know, so now I understand. That's why I read the agenda. I like that. I'm asking. Tom was promoting himself to something. I didn't know where he was going. Right, I wasn't sure.
Right, you're evaluating me today.
Okay, then you had a question.
Oh, I was just wondering, like, the.
It is always a pleasure to be able to recognize someone who's put in the hard work and the effort and everything else that Greg Hill does. We are fortunate as a board to have the firefighters that we have, the firefighting division that we have here, and I hope to God we never have to use them. I mean, that would be the best of all outcomes, but we're very fortunate, so thank you for setting that up, Tom. I appreciate it. I'm sorry?
It's a hell of an insurance policy.
That it is, that it is. Now, it's hard to believe I'm coming up on, it's almost 1 year since the firefighters up in New Tripoli passed. That was December 7th, so we're about a week and a half out from the 1 year anniversary of that tragedy, and that'll stick with me forever. Without a doubt. Okay, next on the agenda is approval of the minutes of the October 31st, 2023 meeting. They were circulated via Novus Agenda. Have a motion to approve. Motion by Justin, second by Mike. Any additions, deletions, or corrections? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Perfect. Okay, now we're into the reports of committees, officers, and staff. First is the treasurer's report, so I'll turn it over to Justin.
Todd, you have 5 minutes. I'm being generous today.
Thank you, I appreciate it. All right. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, we start off with the traffic. And again, we talked about that, or we expected our traffic to kind of pick up later in the year. You can see that in October, that's our best October since 2004. And we are pretty much on par with where we were last year and a little bit ahead, slightly ahead of where we were in 2019 as far as year to date. But you can see the mix of traffic is obviously a lot more Allegiant-based than it was in 2019. Breaking down our load factors, again, you see that the seats that we have are being used even more so than they were in 2019, 87%. So that's 87% of our seats are being used. And you kind of get the feel of the bus down there, the American, which is the one that goes to Philly, and we have the United, which goes to Newark.
Any further discussion in regard to United moving behind the security line?
Nothing yet. Probably not likely to have more discussions on that until the TSA temporary measure is concluded.
Okay.
Again, always compare ourselves to our peers. And again, overall, airports are recovering faster. Bigger airports are recovering faster than the smaller regional airports. You can kind of see this here. Seats of all airports versus the same period in 2019 are up 18% in all airports, but our seats are down about 10. But you can see, like I've been saying, or as I said earlier, that we use a lot more of our seats than everybody else does. So, you know, even though our seats are down 10, our throughput going to the checkpoint is only down 3%. You see that's the opposite with everybody else as far as the bigger airports. They have more seats, but their throughput is actually less than their seats. But compared to our peers, again, this is the last leg of that recovery from the pandemic, and you can see with our peers, everybody is down with the exception of White Plains, which added the Breeze service, but you can see we're doing quite well compared to our peers, almost half as far as seats being down, and our throughput, again, is doing quite well compared to our peers. Month of October, we had a good month of October. We actually originally had 300,000 of CARES in the budgeted for October. We did not use that. Again, that's part of our strategic plan to kind of push some of that into 2024 and 2025, and we'll talk about that a little bit more when we go over the budget. But you can see 300 is the number, so our net income was 300. And you can see that our net income that we had budgeted was about 39, including the CARES. So we had a pretty good month there for October. And then year to date, again, doing much better than what we had budgeted. Actual is about $5.5 million net income versus a budgeted number of 1.5, and we're not using as much CARES as we have budgeted. And that net income is still positive without CARES and at full staffing, which is always something that we're keeping an eye on. And then this is our projection. We kind of expect to be somewhat even the last couple of months, but overall still well ahead of where we had budgeted. And again, our streak is still going strong, 10 out of 10. Hopefully we'll go 11 out of 11. That means positive net income, excluding CARES and miscellaneous income. And if this is our line, and that's our budgeted number there, 73,000 and change, 806 is the budgeted number for 2024, and that's what we're kind of showing all the way out for the next 12 months. And you can see we stay above 60 days, and for the most part, we're above 200 for 11 out of the 12 months going forward. Any questions? Always keeping short and sweet when we have a good month, so I think I went through my 5 minutes, so.
Well, you don't get carryover for next month, but you did really good.
Hey, I'll take all the carryover I can get there. All right, thank you.
Okay, I entertain a motion to accept the October 23 financial report. Motion by Mike, second by Frank. Any discussion, any questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next is the Finance Committee. Frank.
All right, Todd, got a couple things to present here, starting with the 2024 operating budget.
All right. So we always start off, and again, I'm going to make this a lot more condensed. I know I'll probably have 6 minutes for this presentation.
It's Frank's committee.
Frank said I had 6. You gave me 5, maybe 6.5. Frank, I'm good. 6.5. Oh, 5. Frank said 5. So thanks. Well, I appreciate that, Frank. But we've spent a lot of time in the last 2 months. We went over it in October and in November in the committees, really detailing a lot of the assumptions and a lot of things that are going on with the budget. So I'm not going to go through.
Right here for 1 second. For those directors who were not able to attend the committee meetings last week, it's on YouTube. It's out so you can watch and make sure that you're up to date on all the details that Todd's talking about.
Right. And again, this is our same vision, and we always have: be financially responsible, strategic, and manage expectations. And I just put that out there. And then this one is our other goals. Again, very similar to what we always do. We obviously have to maintain our debt service coverage, which is 1.25. We want to manage our resources, and it's really that mix of organization, people, and infrastructure. And this is just kind of the highlights of the operating revenue. You can see where we are overall total revenues, up about 3%. Now, that does include a drop, some in CARES. Originally, we had about $2 million for CARES projected, but because of the way 2023 went, we were able to kind of push $700,000 into 2024's budget and $700,000 into approximately $700,000 into 2025's budget. And for those that forgot, that we have to use all the CARES money by the end of 2025. So just to give us hopefully a soft landing as we go into 2026 with our CARES. But you can see we're up 3%. Cost of sales, you kind of get a feel there. And all of this is in your packets, in your budget package. You can kind of see what's going on. And then the expenses we went through, and we did check on your, that was the property taxes. I think Paul asked that question. that was we got some relief in the property taxes. He had asked that question at committees about why that was such a big reduction in that number there on minus 15, that's 63,666. Overall, you can see we're relatively close to where we were on operating income from last year, within 2% of last year's number operating income. Go through all the stuff there. Obviously, our interest numbers are up. You can see that down there on the, you can see that on the, well, not actually, that's the next slide, but you can see there, Queen City, all the operations, again, all operations there, we're now within 52,000 of where we were last year. Again, pretty consistent that number, even though we're using a little less CARES. 480,000, and that is really a reflection of the interest, the higher interest that we're earning on a lot of our cash. You can say there now, you can't really see down there, we always talk about the investment in infrastructure. You really see it there on that depreciation net of grants. That is our share of infrastructure that we have built in there. That's kind of that amortized cost. You can see that number's going up a whopping 15%, and some of that's associated with the connector. But again, that's a big number. That's a pretty big investment in infrastructure. So if you look at our number there, we're starting with 9.4 million, and we're using almost 8 of that in infrastructure to kind of pay for kind of long-term capital stuff that we have associated with our infrastructure. And then our net income has to be positive, 1.5 approximately, versus 2.1 last year. And we always break down where did the dollars go. And again, early on we talked about what are those three pieces: people and infrastructure and the business. So our biggest piece is the people, 32 and 16. So 48% of every dollar that comes in is spent on employees. 48% of every dollar that comes in is spent on employees. That 31%, that's really the business. That's the electricity. That's the supplies, materials, all the things, that's the business. And everything else, that other 21% is really infrastructure. That service is really associated with some of our infrastructure that we've had over the years, including our connector. Lease payments are usually for infrastructure. And then obviously some of that stuff that we pay for in the current year is the 2.1. So 21% of every dollar that comes in is spent on infrastructure, 31% on the business itself, and then 48% on employees. So the biggest portion is obviously employees.
I assume you've continued your approach of budgeting full staffing on day one of the year.
Yes.
Where are we now? Oh.
I think, you know what, I got to give him a prop there. He knew that was coming. So, we break it down, and I think this is really, I always think of terms of FTEs, which is full-time equivalents, which is kind of 40 hours because we have so many part-time employees. But if you just look at the annual hours, you kind of get a feel for, it doesn't seem as robust as the total employee numbers. So we have budgeted 499,000. This year's budget was 485,000. But you can see that in the 19th payroll, and actually we were a little bit higher than that last payroll, we're up 478 and change. So it's a pretty big number as far as hours. So as you move some of those full-time employees, you do take away some of the hours of some of those additional hours now. So even though you might add employees, the hours, what we need to run the business is the hours we need to run the business. So either we're paying them in overtime and we're bringing them in, but long term, you obviously don't want to do overtime because people get worn out and it's obviously a premium cost. Everybody get that? Because that's why I broke it down by hours. And we did talk about a little bit in our committee meetings about the fact that our hours compared to our peers are so much higher because we have so much stuff that we have in-house versus our peers. And that's part of the reason that our costs are a little bit higher as well too. And then here's our cash, again at that 73,806, just pushing it all the way out to the end of the year again, with an exception of January. Every month is above 200 there. And again, originally we had it in there at 74,000 as our estimate. We ended up 73,806. Any questions?
Yeah, question.
Yes.
The CARES Act money, must that be booked by the end of the year and out the door by the end of the year?
End of the year of 2025?
Yes.
Not sure. It's not going to matter because we're going to get it all anyway. Okay. So we don't give away any money. So But it's gotta be out the door and you best believe we're getting every nickel of that money.
It'll have to be out the door.
Yeah. It'll be out the door, because what we usually do is we book it in the year we receive it.
Oh, okay.
So when we receive it, it would be in 2025.
Yeah, I just wondered if you had the invoices, whatever you're spending it on, are accounted for. And even if you haven't sent the checks out yet to whoever you use it for.
Well, normally we wait until I actually get the invoices. What we've been using is, I mean, for us, because these are bigger invoices, because it's a big grant, most of our grants now are for infrastructure, so they're bigger dollars. But when you're dealing with this grant, it's an operating one. So the biggest one obviously is payroll. So we use that, or some of our debt service are the ones we use to kind of submit in there. But we have no problem submitting that. Where should we find?
Thank you.
Any questions? And we did talk about the rates, which we'll talk about on the exhibit after Ryan does his presentation. But we do have conversation with our consultants about what's the right mix about what we can charge. Our rates are high, and there is a lot of subsidy in our rates. But there is a balance between obviously cost and what they're going to pay. Any questions?
That also rolls into the fact that we've got costs that are borne by the airport authority that some of our competitors
Correct.
are not.
Correct.
For example, I think fire coverage in Atlantic City is either a city or a county function. It's not on the airport authority. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, not exactly in that location, but there's a number of piers where they have some costs that are covered in other
By the
cities,
municipality
right?
or by the county?
Right.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the 2024 operating budget. Moved by Bobby, second by Ron. Any additional questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, Todd, you're actually going to mentor Ryan for the Airport Capital Improvement Program.
Great. All right, thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. So again, similar to even what Todd alluded to, we went through the projects and the committees in October, obviously discussed them last week as well. So I'll run through this pretty briefly, but just to hit the highlights. Again, as Todd mentioned, talking about infrastructure, you can kind of see the last 8-year cycle where we're projected to end up this year. And then obviously with our budget, in terms of the Exhibit A, around 11.4 million of LNAA share for capital. Again, how we prepare the process with contingencies, impacting safety, capacity, and the strategic initiatives that we've talked about. And then everything obviously ties to the cash flow, assuming ideal schedules, but also being conservative when we receive funding, as we've talked about in the past with some of the RACP and other timing items. Again, the overall program with the Exhibit B with the departmental projects, categorizing those and breaking those out as well, as you've seen in the budget. Again, a lot of the numbers on this page, but really the top are our FAA grants, FAA and state grants, everything with a number we currently have executed. Everything that isn't is anticipated to be received next year. Same thing, we got Queen City, and then Braden, a state project we're looking to get funding next year. And a lot of these, without the numbers, if we don't get the funding, we reevaluate depending on if we can do the project based on the funding allocation. Major non-grant projects, again, we've talked about. There's 12 larger ones there. You can kind of see the breakdown. Again, aligning with our 8-year plan, coordinating some of the phasing you can see with the program costs versus the project cost are in different variations of phasing in terms of timing, spanning multiple years, to complete those projects. And then again, kind of the end of the Exhibit A, you can see the 11.38 at the bottom. The cumulative department spending line 28 is that Exhibit B with all the departmental projects. And then 31, I think as we talked about before, is really just the timing of our grant receipts versus payments for projects that are closing out or we've closed this year, or we paid this year, but we're waiting on the final payment from the FAA next year, again, just with the timing. And as I mentioned, Exhibit B, the departmental projects, in line a little bit more than last year in terms of the number of 82. You can see the breakdown. But I think as we mentioned in committees, 3.2 million only includes the 1, 2, and 3 projects. The 4s are in there based on, they're projects that we identified that still have a need, but they're not as high as the other priorities. But due to market volatility, lead times, and some flexibility as we know things change based on where we think they are in terms of condition, something breaks that we need to address, those have been included, at least in the line item. But the number for approval is the 3.28, which is built into again, the cash flow as well as that Exhibit A. So I believe that's it. Happy to answer any questions.
Entertain a motion to approve correcting the airport capital improvements program. Motion by Ron, second by Mike. Open it up for questions, comments, discussion. Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, next is the airline rates and charges.
Okay. In this particular exhibit we have our rates and charges resolution. This is the only exhibit that actually changes because of the rates changing. So this is just kind of showing in an exhibit form what the new rates would be. The new rates are up about 8% on the landing fees. The aprons were about a little bit over 1, and the terminal was about 10. The difference between signatories that sign the agreement, they get a lower rate than people that are non-sig. The non-sigs pay 7% more. So this is formalizing what we talked about in the budget. This is the rate that we put in this end to the airlines. Any questions, concerns?
Why would an entity not sign?
Sometimes they do it just because they want to make a statement. I don't know why. I mean, we did have that with United for a while. They wanted to make a statement that they didn't want to sign, but they eventually said 7% works. I think at this point we only have one that doesn't do business as often.
Okay.
So but everybody else is pretty much like, we'll take our 7%. Thank you very much.
So what's the increase on this from 2023?
The landing fees are up 8%. The apron's a little over 1, and the terminal's about 10, a little over 10, about 10. Again, we did have that discussion with our consultants, and because again, we're supposed to pass on these costs, but obviously, most of our airports, most of our airlines are here by resolution, so we want to make sure that the costs are something that they can live with. They're never going to be happy with an increase, but certainly something that they can live with. And again, we have a lot of costs. And some of this is just what's going on as far as labor and some of the inflationary costs that are going up. Everybody's costs are going up. So, and obviously we have the connector that ultimately they got to pay for.
Do we have, it was a few years ago, we had competitive information for the other airports in the area. Do we have that?
We get it at the end of the year, so we have the one from 2022.
Okay.
So, and then I can circulate that again if you would like.
Let's bring that into the next meeting. Yeah, that way everyone can see, because we talk about where we are in terms of costs,
Yeah.
so that everybody's
You
got
can
that,
really
those
see
numbers.
the costs are higher.
Yep. Yeah, because that is a competitive issue. That's something we've got to deal with. Excuse me, we have to keep into consideration.
Any questions, concerns? Oh, all right.
Just a quick observation. With the increase in fares or rates, do you think it's curtailing any new service or additional service because of the high charges?
We haven't seen that.
Yeah, I don't think so. Not yet.
Is that playing a role, though, to follow on Larry's question, is that playing a role with why Wilkes-Barre seems to be picking up some business now that they hadn't been previously?
So a lot of the new low-cost carriers that are coming into the market, I mean, Todd mentioned, Breeze and Avello and some of the others in the neighborhood. Right now, their strategy is to go into markets that don't have an existing low-cost carrier like an Allegiant. So they're going into those airports that really don't have any other competition on low-cost carrier service.
Okay.
So I think over time, as those carriers continue to grow and develop, you'll see them entering those markets. But the initial part of their rollout has not been any place where there's existing low-cost carrier service.
Okay. More so that than fees,
Than
than costs. Okay. Okay. Entertain a motion to approve the airline rates and charges exhibit. Motion by Don, second.
Second.
For a second, I think that was Frank. Any additional discussion or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Todd, thank you. Frank, anything else from the Finance Committee?
No, thank you, though.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Exec Committee is up next. We have approval of the Rockefeller Sewer Easement and Settlement.
Yep. I think Darren should be on the line for us to be able to kind of walk us through this one.
Yep. Thanks, John. Thanks, Tom. Good afternoon, everybody. So we did go through this at committee as well. There's just two kind of cleanup items here for Rockefeller that we've been working through. So, but if you just want to go to the next slide, and we'll just take each of these quickly. So the first one is a sanitary sewer easement. This is something that we had agreed to back when we were working on actually the sale of the property for the FedEx project. We agreed to provide this. It's actually already in use. It just needs to be dedicated over to Hanover Township. In order to satisfy FAA fair market value, Rockefeller is actually making a one-time $10,000 payment on behalf of the township to the LNAA for the easement. So again, it's already there. It's already being used. We do have the ability to relocate it in the future if we were to need it for aeronautical uses. We also have the ability to do anything above ground. It's just a subterranean easement, so if we can, do anything above it that's necessary. So, has all of our standard FAA provisions and our navigation language, and it's been reviewed by both our solicitor's office and our FAA council. So, that's the one piece of it. The second piece, so if you want to flip. Second piece is, we had this reimbursement agreement with the Rockefeller Group back in 2016. We had assisted in acquiring some right-of-way properties for the FedEx project. And several of those properties were properties the airport authority wanted to acquire, where they were labeled on our Exhibit A for acquisition. So instead of just acquiring the slivers for right-of-way, we were actually able to go in and purchase those. Rockefeller technically purchased them. We reimbursed them the fair market value. They paid a little higher than fair market for most of those just to get them done, and we reimbursed them fair market value. So all those in the picture there in the bluish color are the ones that we've already closed on and reimbursed Rockefeller for. The last one there in the green, back when we were doing this, we weren't sure that we actually wanted to acquire that. As you can see, it's across Ray Street, not contiguous to the airfield as the rest are. But now with our master plan, it is labeled for acquisition. So we have gone to Rockefeller and said we do want this property as well. So it appraised last year at about $395,000, $96,000. We have agreed to pay, and Rockefeller's agreed to accept $235,000 for this. And then this will terminate this reimbursement agreement. Comes with a full release for both parties for anything. And so there'll be no obligations left under this agreement. It doesn't release either party from other obligations from other agreements, which was important to us because we have a lot of surviving clauses from some of our original agreements with Rockefeller, and like indemnification clauses, things like that we wanted to make sure we did not release them from. So it's just very specific to this agreement. And again, this one was also negotiated, with the assistance of the solicitor's office and our FAA council. So happy to answer any questions.
Okay, I'd entertain a motion to approve the sewer easement settlement. So, second. Motion by Don, second by Mike. Okay, open it up. I've got a couple of questions, but I'll open it up for questions from the board. Okay, Darren, first on the easement. When you say we can do anything above ground, I assume that does not include construction, that would be restricted to farming or other non-physical building above a sewer line, which could create problems down the road?
Yeah, absolutely. But if we do need to build there for some reason, then we do have the ability to relocate that. We do have language in there. It would be at our cost to relocate, but we are able to relocate it at that time.
Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to clarify that. And then on the settlement, so we'd keep the land vacant at this point. We'd have no use for it.
Not, at this point, we do not, but it is shown to be acquired on our airport layout plan, the FAA approved plan, so.
Okay. Just curiosity, why is Rockefeller willing to go so far below appraised value?
Good
happy
question.
That they are.
Yeah, happy they are.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm not sure.
Don't look the gift horse. That's exactly making us think I probably shouldn't even invest.
This was actually several outstanding items with Rockefeller. Honestly, I think a lot of it is just to get this done.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So
it's really just getting, this is just an agreement that it was time to get past this. They're done in the valley for the most part with that project. So trying to clean things up.
Yep. So, okay. Any other questions or comments for Darren? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Darren, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay, the next
item, I don't know if we want to cover that in exec session.
Probably should.
I can certainly, if you want to keep rolling, I can move on to the next item if you like.
Okay, let's do that. We will come back to it in the exec session. So, director's report.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Okay, so as Todd mentioned, good month for traffic. Again, October, traffic's up and up about 9% relative to 2019 October, so that's good to see. Nationally, when we look at seats and we look at our throughputs at checkpoints, it's always good to see what's happening across the country. We're up about 9.7% on throughput through checkpoints across the country for November. Month to date right now for us, we're running about 15% up, so seeing a little bit higher than what our national average is. For December, our airline seats in the schedule are up 13%. Looking at December nationally, they're up about 6%. So again, good set of numbers as we head into the end of the year. Year to date, our cargo is still doing well, 21% up. So a little over 226 million pounds have moved through since the end of October. And since the end of October, our October 31st board meeting, we've had a couple of things I wanted to talk through. November 1st, we attended the Community Action Committee Lehigh Valley Annual Meeting. Congratulations, Dawn. It was a great meeting. So thanks for having us there. November 6th, we held our last Fear of Flying seminar for the year, and that was fully booked. So it was great to have that. We've got a number of those planned for next year already, probably more than what we had even this year, based on how well those are being attended. On November 9th, we attended a small little thing, the Greater Lehigh Valley Chamber of Commerce annual meeting with Frank. That was a great show. Thank you very much for having us be part of that and gave away a few tickets. Yeah, it was great. November 14th, we hosted the Lehigh County Seeing Eye Puppy Club for a tour of the terminals. So getting some service animals in and get familiar with the facilities here, it's always helpful, and the group keeps coming back. So great to have them here. November 15th, staff attended a career fair at Lehigh Valley Academy Regional Charter School. And November 16th, we got an announcement from Allegiant, twice weekly service nonstop to Orlando International. So that'll operate Thursdays and Sundays. So we're excited to see that. The very next day after that announcement, Allegiant started their nonstop service to Melbourne, Florida. So John, thank you for being here for that. So that was great to see everybody excited to go out. We had some cool giveaways, a little NASA bag and everything heading to the Space Coast over there. And around the same time, we got word that with the short-term resolution, FAA is now funded through January 19th of next year. TSA is funded through February 2nd. So we've kicked the can a little further. We'll continue to monitor that next year, but it gets us through the end of the year in terms of having no impact to operation here. In terms of upcoming events, all this month of December, we have our annual Holiday Festival of Trees. So we've got 20 trees that are going to be decorated by students from local area school districts. December 2nd is our 7th annual Shop with an Airport Cop. So we're working with 25 children from the Catasauqua Area School District. So we're excited. Steve Jensitz and the crew from the police department are always happy to put on that event. We thank them for that. December 9th, North Pole Express charity flight is operating, and we have 13 families from Dream Come True that are participating in that, working with United Express and SkyWest, so we're excited to do that. That begins early, though. That's at 8:15, I believe. Is that still the right time?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So if folks want to attend, I think, Colin, we're getting something out on that. If board members are interested in being here on that date again, December 9th at 8:15. December 13th, we have 15 staff from LNAA participating in the Senior Food Box Program at the Second Harvest Food Bank. Again, something we were really excited about getting involved with at the food bank last year. Happy to have a lot of interest in doing that again this year.
And all the support for food banks we can possibly provide.
Yeah.
The Second Harvest notices the demand
Yeah.
is incredible.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
And for toys, by the way.
Yeah.
And toys is.
Yeah. December 18th and 20th, our holiday concert series. We have a little bit less performance area out here this year due to the new TSA queue. So Deerfield High School and Emmaus High School will be here. Always look forward to seeing both of those concerts. So they do a great job in the terminal here. Passengers absolutely love it, and so does the staff, honestly.
Where do the trees go? Out at the gates, or?
Trees are going to be surrounded in the main terminal, and we're probably going to spill some over into some other areas now.
With the trees.
Yeah. And last but not least, for the month of December, we have no scheduled committee or board meetings. So I would like to say happy holidays to all.
Okay.
And with that, that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Does anyone have any questions or comments, Ron?
I know it's early, but
Yeah.
Any word on Melbourne? I'm just curious how that's gonna do.
How it's doing? Connie, do we have any early reports on how that's?
The last we checked, the Legion was very happy.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wondered, I mean, with Sanford there, you know, and Melbourne, I mean, I'm planning next year to go and use it, so I'll let you know.
Yeah, curious if it doesn't take away from the other Florida flights.
From the other services, yes. Yeah, far enough away, I think, different group of people looking to get to that part of the state, so.
So convenient for the Space Coast.
It is.
It is. And even going down south.
Cocoa Beach and those areas, so,
Yeah.
yeah.
Agreed. Jeff?
Understanding that there's not going to be any meeting in December, this is the last meeting that I'm going to be attending after 2 wonderful terms on this group, involved with this group. And I just want to say, I'm really impressed, particularly with the staff. You know, except that we are a public body and we need to be here as a group, I think the staff could do their job without us. But that's up to them. So I just want to say thank you, and I really am so proud of the mission of the airport.
Jeff, thank you, and thank you for 10 years of service. I should ask, do we have any other board retirees around the table? Okay, we do not.
Unless the
Jeff?
commissioners vote no next.
That's true, you're rolling the dice, Mike. We'll see how it works out for you. Okay, Jeff, again, thank you. Very much appreciated. Okay, anything else for Tom? Okay, solicitors report, Attorney Marcon.
I only need about 30 seconds. Things are good. They're just kind of chugging along. We do the regular, leasing support, that sort of thing. As you heard Darren say, my office did assist with the Rockefeller agreements there. We continue to assist with the liquor license transfer. And I'm also beginning the process of doing the 5-year bylaws review and making some recommendations and just raising some questions for discussion as far as making some just updates and revisions to the bylaws. So far, nothing major at all. There's no development that we need to incorporate in there. It's just maybe updating for notice and that sort of thing.
And getting rid of some ambiguous language.
Correct, yes. We are updating the language to just be a little more current in plain English. No update in the stormwater case. That's it.
Okay,
Egregious stormwater.
Egregious stormwater tax.
That's exactly right. Right, that's gonna be, I'm gonna get that tattooed at some point. Okay, any questions for Attorney Marcon? Thank you. Next, any new business before we go to executive session? Okay, hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to move to executive session to discuss labor issues and review issues.
So you have personnel matters.
Yep. Okay, entertain that motion. Mike, second. Frank? All those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I'd entertain a motion to approve the ABE Police Association Collective Bargaining Agreement. Have a motion by Glenn, second by Frank. Any discussion?
I'm not allowed to vote on this one. I had to reclude myself when it came to fire because I was a public servant.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to make sure that.
That's a good question.
I don't see
Question?
Whether
whether
Bob needs to.
he needed to abstain at all from this vote.
Well, I think if you,
I don't represent them at all, so I just wanted to make sure, after we sat through that class, I just wanted to make sure.
okay, yeah.
Figured I better ask the question and know the answer.
Right,
Yes.
if you don't have a conflict where your interest is elsewhere, then there's no prohibition.
Thanks. Thank you.
Sounds good. Any other questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of the subject motion indicate by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Tom, team, thank you for your work on the contract. That, I think, wraps up everything from a labor perspective until 2028. 2027. Okay.
I gotta look.
Okay, no, that's good. Okay, do we have anything else we want to cover today? We just got one thing. We've got one team left in the state high school playoffs. We've got Northwestern Lehigh. They get to play Wyomissing Friday night, 7 o'clock down at Kutztown University. So if you're not doing anything, that's going to be a whale of a game. So it should be an awful lot of fun.
Don't say it.
Does it help your
Don't say it.
bank?
What am I going to say?
I know what you're gonna say, don't say it.
Go Tigers.
I'm good with that.
No, you're not referring to Go Birds now, are you?
Oh, God.
I'm good with that one.
Hey, now give you guys some zebra stripes, you can wear them too.
Oh, I heard that. We won't even go there. We'll be here for another 45 minutes. Okay, guys, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. We have the motion. That's all we need under Robert's rules. I want to thank everybody. Wish everybody a great holiday season. Merry Christmas. Hope you all have a wonderful December, and we'll see everybody in January.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
So far, next scan is mid-December.